Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I'm going to give you 10 more horror sequels that I find better than their predecessor. There is only really one rule here, and that it has to be a direct follow-up to the original. Now, I'm bending the rules a little bit because that can include a prequel, technically, if it follows the original film's release. If, not how, in the order that these films take place, but when they came out. So, you might see a prequel or two in here. I saw some people in my comments mentioning some last time, and I said, you know what, I'll bend the rules a little bit. But I'm also going to say, this is just my list. It is not the list. It is not even a top 10 list. It is just 10 more that I think are better than their predecessor. So why keep edging anymore? Let's just go for it. Money shot time. First one I want to talk about is VHS 2. Now, believe it or not, I was not a huge fan of VHS when it came out. There were some cool segments in it, but I didn't love it. There was just something missing from it. I felt like, although there was potential there, it was like a found footage film and franchise really trying to find its footing. And boy, did it find its footing in VHS 2. VHS 2, the first time I watched it, scared the crap out of me in multiple, segments. I think the Alien one was like, no, this is terrifying the first time I watched it. There's not a bad segment in VHS 2. They all have their nice little quirks and creepy moments, but I think the alien abduction one is definitely like top tier for me. So VHS 2 is going to be my first one. Next up is A Quiet Place Part 2. Now, believe it or not, I did not expect this to make this list when this movie came out. I loved the first film. I saw it in theaters opening night, and it was a great experience. And I actually didn't see the second one in theaters. I waited till it was out on Paramount Plus. I don't really know why I didn't go see it in theaters. It wasn't that I wasn't interested. I just thought, well, how are you going to top that? I didn't really feel it was a film that needed a sequel. Boy, was I wrong. Although there's a lot less John Krasinski in this movie because, obviously, I love this movie. I think this movie is awesome. And I think what it sets up at the end, how this can be so much bigger than we've seen it. It's really been contained. But at the end of this movie, you're like, oh, hell yeah. Like, this could go a lot of places that I am really, really looking forward to. So, A Quiet Place Part 2. Again, Emily Blunt steals the show in this movie. She's brilliant in both films. So, yep, this is going to make the list as well. Next up is going to be Phantasm II. Now, some of you guys watching may have never seen the Phantasm movies. Or if you have, maybe you've seen the first one. I implore you to watch these movies. And I'm not just saying that because it's a horror YouTube guy thing to do. No, I really enjoy these movies. I really do, especially the first three. But the first two are bona fide, like, 70s, 80s horror classics to me. But the second one is everything the first one did well on steroids. There's more money there. It's more imaginative. It's bigger. It's a grander scale. It is more over the top. It's really leaning into, like, some of the sci-fi elements that were touched on in the first one, but not really delved into that deep. And my God, Phantasm 2 is a banger. I absolutely love this movie. It's my favorite Phantasm movie, and it is absolutely better than the first film, in my opinion. Next up is the first instance of me kind of bending the rules a little bit. Even though I explained the rules to you guys, you get it, whatever. And that is going to be Ouija, Origin of Evil. Okay, Ouija was a terrible movie. That movie was dog shit. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. If there's people out there that like that movie, more power to you. I think that movie's terrible. And we see too often with these haunted artifact movies or possession movies or whatever, it just becomes this run-of-the-mill crap made for teenagers. And that's what Ouija was. It just wasn't good. Enter Mike Flanagan, who is, in my opinion, the greatest horror director working today, right there with James Wan. And boy, did he save Ouija. Oh, Ouija Origin of Evil is genuinely frightening. It's a great period piece. The acting is incredible. The atmosphere is top-notch. The writing is like, yes, Ouija Origin of Evil, although it is a prequel, it came out after the first one, so, but it is far, far better than Ouija. Now, it is not my favorite Flanagan film or anything like that, but the dude has so many bangers. But Ouija Origin of Evil, without question, way better than Ouija. And continuing with that trend is going to be Annabelle Creation, which, like I said, again, is a prequel. But, oh my God, just like Ouija, Annabelle sucked. Now, I will say Annabelle is not as bad as Ouija. I don't think it's on that level of where it's like, dear God, I will never watch that movie again. And Ouija's one of those movies. I'm probably never going to watch that movie again. Annabelle is bad, but it's not like, I want to scoop my eyeballs out with a rusty spoon. But man, did they save it with Creation. Creation is so different from the first movie. The first movie turned into this like modern day, oh, look, this black demon thingy with horns and rah, and like, it was just so uninteresting, and it was so run of the mill, and it was so uninspired. And then Annabelle Creation comes along, and it's like, oh, we're going to center this around, an orphanage essentially, with a bunch of children that are going to be at the forefront of all of this, and they're going to be the ones that are in danger. And then we're going to have children die. Appear to die. I'm trying to think if any of them die. I guess an argument could be made. Whatever, you get my point. You get great visuals. There's some genuinely tense scenes in this movie. There's a scene with a sheet that is just awesome. There's a scene in a barn that is awesome. There's a scene underneath the stairs that scared the crap out of me in the theater. I remember walking out of the theater with my buddy Dave and going, that first movie sucked, and I had no hopes for this movie, and that movie freaking ruled. I found Annabelle Creation to be frightening, to be engaging, to be entertaining, and 110% leagues above Annabelle. Now, this next one kind of falls more into like, at times sci-fi, at times, creature feature, and at times thriller, but a lot of people put it in, the horror umbrella, I guess. So I'm going to say 10 Cloverfield Lane, which interestingly was not supposed to be a Cloverfield sequel or a Cloverfield movie at all when it was first conceptualized, and it kind of became that as time went on. And thankfully it did. I've seen people say they felt the ending was tacked on. I don't think so at all. For me, it felt like it was building upon a world that I loved and I wanted to see return, and was so happy to see it return. But before all of that, John Goodman he's incredible in this movie. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is incredible in this movie. The setting, the claustrophobia, the acting, the writing. It is wondering this entire time, is there anything actually out there? You could have, I believe the movie was just called The Cellar when it was initially written. And like, just setting a movie down there and having it have nothing to do with what's going on in the outside world, just being a guy that kidnapped these people, is totally tantalizing and phenomenal in and of itself. Then to connect it to Cloverfield at the end was just chef's kiss brilliant. This is, without a doubt, the best Cloverfield film. And I love Cloverfield. And I actually know they're ramping up to announce an official sequel that's been in secret production, I believe. So that's awesome. But without a doubt, I love the first movie. This is an even better movie, in my opinion. The Cloverfield Paradox sucks balls. Even if Clover came back, it still sucks. Next up is a little bit more of a controversial one, and I totally understand why not a lot of people have this better than the original, and that's okay, because they're kind of tonally very different. But that's Happy Death Day 2U. I love Happy Death Day 2U. I make no bones about it. This movie, from the first time I saw it, I was just in love with the movie. One, Jessica Rothe is amazing in the role again. There is some of that slasher element in there, though not as much as the first one. It's definitely more sci-fi comedy, kind of dark comedy with a little bit of horror mixed into there. This movie has a lot of heart. It's funny. It's surprising at times. It's well acted. It's super well written. It's so meta in great ways. Look, if Christopher Landon really is being eyed to direct Scream 7, sign me up, because he would fit that world literally perfectly. Happy Death Day 2U is a movie that I feel like it was a natural progression for this franchise to go if it was going to become a franchise after Happy Death Day. You couldn't do the exact same thing over and over again and have it work, so you had to switch it up a little bit. And to lean a little bit more into the zany and less into the slasher, I really enjoyed. Now, having said that, there are enough horror elements in here that I can get behind it as a horror movie. It still has enough of that flavor. But at the end of the day, regardless, I just think that this sequel is what Happy Death Day should be. The first movie is a great movie. I love the first movie. But I feel like this movie did everything that movie did just a little bit better. And I think Jessica Rothe is a big reason for that. So Happy Death Day 2U, still waiting on a third movie. Next up is going to be one that I have really wrestled with at times. I haven't thought it was better than the original, then I haven't, and now I do. So that just goes to show you it's a damn good movie regardless. But as of today, I'm going to say it's a little bit better than the original, and that is Final Destination 2. Now, why do I say Final Destination 2 is better than the original? Because the original is a great movie. It really, really is. There's not much, if anything, I would change about that movie. I think this movie has just had a more lasting impact on me, personally. And whether you want to just attribute that solely to the log truck, fine, so be it. None of us are going to drive behind one of those trucks again. And if you do, you're playing with fire. I don't think I'm ever going to get over that. You know, since Final Destination came out, I have been on a plane many times, flown over the Pacific Ocean for hours on end, and I just wasn't weirded out by it anymore. The first time I was weirded out, not anymore. But log trucks, always and forever, are going to just, yeah, no. It's a non-starter for me. Won't happen. Already don't like semi-trucks. Yeah, this movie just traumatized me in certain ways. It's super fun. The only thing that I wish they would have done differently is how they wrote in Devon Sawa's character's death. Alex, that's his name. I didn't like that. That was kind of stupid. But I just think it's a little more fun than the first one. So Final Destination 2. Next up is going to be one that I would have never put over the original years ago. I thought the original was groundbreaking for the time, and it really just kind of grossed me out and stuck with me for a while. But I think the sequel is better as we sit here today. And that's Hostel Part 2. Now, there are some things that Hostel does better than Hostel Part 2. But I think where Hostel Part 2 gets it right and kind of gets the edge over Hostel is it's even more over the top and even more cringe-inducing. While also, I feel like having a better setting. I like the setting more. It's a dark movie. It feels that way and it looks that way. And it's very unforgiving. I mean, I vividly remember the scene of Heather Matarazzo hanging from the ceiling and just getting scythed and blood just pouring all over that naked lady. And I'm just like, watching that the first time, I was like, dear God. And on top of that, you have dudes' wieners getting cut off and fed to dogs. Hostel Part 2, and it digs into the organization as itself a little bit more, and it's not so like, I don't know, it doesn't seem so contained to just like one area or one city, one country, whatever you want to call it. Hostel Part 2, I think, is just a little bit more memorable than Hostel. So I'm going to put Hostel Part 2 in there, and I might regret it, but as of right now, I don't. And finally, to round out this 10 on Volume 2, and if you guys like this one as well, we'll do another one. To round out this 10 is going to be one that is debated and will be debated until the end of time. It's not as much of a horror movie as the first one. Both films obviously have their merits. They're both classics. Aliens. I've always been an Aliens guy. Now, Alien, well, I shouldn't say always, because there have been times where Alien has edged out Aliens for me. Alien is an incredible horror movie in space. I mean, truly, like, you are fucked. Like, let's just put it plainly. Like, you're screwed. There's nothing is saving you. And that claustrophobic feel and helplessness just permeates throughout that movie, and I think it's what makes it so effective. But Aliens, while still having enough of that, though not as much, it definitely leans more into the badass sci-fi action flick. And I tend to go with that a little bit more. This is really when Sigourney Weaver really comes into her own, obviously. I think the third act of this movie is one of the best third acts ever, period, in cinema history. Again, I know this is debated ad nauseum and will continue to be debated ad nauseum, but I'm gonna go with Aliens, and I feel kind of confident in that. I'm sure no one's gonna disagree whatsoever, right? But anyway, that's the end of this list. Again, I don't know why I keep saying list, because it's not really a list. It's just another 10 horror sequels that I find better than their predecessor. But you guys let me know down in the comment section below, do you agree with this? Are there others that I've missed that I should do in another video? Do you want a Volume 3? Should this be a trilogy? I'm liking doing this. I really, really am. This is fun. But all that and everything else down below in the comment section. Please make sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Follow me on social media and become a patron on patreon.com for just $1 a month. We are about to do episode 2 of Uneeda After Dark next week. That is a patron-only bonus monthly episode, no holes barred, of the Uneeda Horror Podcast. So thank you guys so much for watching. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I am pulling out. Giggity.